Imagine for a second that you are standing outside.
Okay.
It is a beautiful, cloudless, just brilliant summer day. You can feel the heat of the sun on your face. There is a slight breeze. I mean, it is absolutely perfect.
That's pretty ideal.
Right. But then your phone buzzes. You look down at your weather app, and it is flashing this bright, pulsing red warning for a severe, immediate thunderstorm.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So do you abandon your afternoon, sprint inside, and lock the doors? Or do you trust your own eyes, look up at the blue sky, and actually, enjoy the sunshine?
Well, it sounds like a ridiculous scenario when you frame it physically like that.
Yeah, of course it does.
But human psychology is a funny thing. I mean, a shocking number of people will actually sprint inside.
Right.
We have become so completely conditioned to trust the screen, to trust the flashing alert and the digital narrative, that we will actively ignore the physical reality happening right in front of our own eyes.
And welcome to today's deep dive, because that massive disconnect between the terrifying alerts on our screens and the actual reality on the ground is, well, it's exactly what we were exploring today.
Yeah, it's a huge topic.
It really is. We are pulling apart a very specific, incredibly insightful set of sources today. It's the July 2026 edition of the quarterly INsync Chit Chat newsletter.
A great read.
Yeah, this comes from David Cox and the Financially InSync team at Raymond James Ltd.
And what makes this specific newsletter so valuable for you as a listener is that it isn't just like a dry academic financial report.
Exactly. No one wants to read another one of those.
Right. It is a real-time, unfiltered look at how top-tier wealth advisors are actively navigating the absolute chaos of mid-2026.
So our mission today is to extract the ultimate signal from all this macroeconomic noise for you.
Because there is a lot of noise.
So much noise. We're going to look at how these experts are balancing scary headlines with some highly aggressive market strategies. We will look at how they manufacture personal accountability to keep their edge, and even how they are using artificial intelligence to manage their daily biological habits.
Which is wild, by the way.
I know. Wait till we get to that part. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with that weather app analogy. Because if you look at the economic headlines right now, the app is definitely flashing red.
Oh, absolutely. If you are just skimming the front pages, you would be forgiven for thinking the financial sky is literally falling. The anxiety out there is palpable.
Yeah. So let's lay out the facts from the newsletter. Just the hard numbers. Canada is officially in a technical recession.
Right.
Over in the U.S., inflation just hit a 3-year high of 4.2% year over year in May.
Ouch.
I know. And Canadian inflation isn't far behind, rising to 3.2%, which that came in hotter than anyone expected.
And global central banks are not just sitting on their hands here. They are reacting aggressively.
Yeah, they really are.
Like the European Central Bank just hiked interest rates by 25 basis points, which is 0.25%.
Which sounds like nothing.
Right. It sounds tiny to the average person, but in the realm of global finance, that microscopic shift reroutes billions of dollars in borrowing costs. It brings their rate to roughly 2.25%, which is their first hike in 3 years.
Wow. And then there's Japan.
Yes, the Bank of Japan hiked rates to 1%.
Which is crazy to think about.
It is. Again, to a North American, a 1% interest rate sounds like free money.
I'd love a 1% mortgage right now.
We all would. But for Japan, a country that has essentially lived with zero or even negative interest rates for decades, that is the highest rate since 1995.
Since 95. That's unbelievable.
It is a massive paradigm shift for global borrowing. Because for years, cheap Japanese money funded global investments. When that money gets more expensive, well, the whole world feels the pinch.
Yeah, and the newsletter also highlights some highly charged political developments out of Ottawa. Now, I want to be super clear here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Regardless of where you sit on the political spectrum, as investors, we just have to look mechanically at how policy impacts the market landscape.
Exactly. Just the mechanics of it.
Right. So the sources note, Carney announced a taxpayer-funded bailout for BC developers. There is also a new initiative called All AI for Canada AI, specifically designed to be based on Canadian values.
Okay.
But the one that really stood out mechanically is the new Sovereign Wealth Fund. The government is funding it entirely by borrowing money.
Yeah.
And I'm struggling to understand the logic there. Doesn't the Sovereign Wealth Fund usually exist to invest extra cash?
Traditionally, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at global peers like Norway, for example.
Right, they have a massive one.
Huge. They take massive budget surpluses, usually from oil revenue, and they park that money in a sovereign wealth fund to prevent it from overheating their domestic economy.
So it cools things down.
Exactly, it cools things down. But funding a wealth fund by actively borrowing money does the exact opposite. You are injecting debt into the system.
Right.
Mechanically speaking, borrowing money to invest on a national scale adds directly to the exact inflationary pressures, like that 3.2% Canadian inflation rate that we were just talking about.
Wow. Okay, so add to all of this policy noise the massive cultural distraction of the record-breaking SpaceX IPO, and you have a recipe for total investor paralysis.
People just freeze. They don't know what to do.
Which brings us to David Cox's core philosophy outlined in this newsletter. It is essentially a survival mechanism for this exact type of environment.
And it's a good one.
His central rule is this: follow the price and the trend, not the narrative.
Yes.
But hold on, I need to push back on that.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because if we are officially in a technical recession, meaning gross domestic product, the actual output of the country, has fallen for 2 consecutive quarters, shouldn't the trend naturally be downward?
You would think so, right?
Right. Shouldn't we be selling off our portfolios, hoarding cash, and just waiting for the storm to pass?
But that is the narrative talking. That is the red flashing light on the weather app from your analogy.
Okay, fair.
And that fear is exactly what spooks everyday people into stopping their spending or business owners into halting their hiring. But here's the mechanism you have to understand. The stock market is not the economy.
Unpack that for me. How can the market completely detach from the economy?
Well, because the market is a forward-looking discounting mechanism. It does not care about what happened 3 months ago to cause the recession. It only cares about what the world will look like 6 to 12 months from now.
Ah, okay.
What is fascinating here is that despite these terrifying recessionary labels, the S&P 500 actually rebounded incredibly smartly from a fear-driven March sell-off. It didn't just recover, it hit new all-time highs.
So the economy is shrinking in the rearview mirror, but the stock market is putting on sunscreen because it sees clear skies ahead.
Precisely. Historically, equities can and often do rise during recessions.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah, the market prices in the worst case scenario, and when the actual reality turns out to be just slightly less terrible than feared, stocks rally. We saw the exact same disconnect in early 2025. You might remember everyone was panicking over tariffs.
Oh yeah, the tariff panic was everywhere.
The narrative was complete doom and gloom for cross-border trade. And what did the TSX, the Toronto Stock Exchange, do?
Let me guess, it went up.
It completely ignored the narrative, broke out, and went on a massive run.
That is wild.
The collective wisdom of all investors globally voting with their dollars is reflected in the price. If government spending continues unabated, you get inflation. And inflationary assets, like stocks, actually benefit from that environment because their underlying companies can charge higher prices.
It really highlights how dangerous it is to let the forecast panic you when you could just look out the window.
Exactly.
So let's pivot to the actual portfolio application here. Let's look out the window and see what assets are actually thriving in the sunshine of summer 2026.
Right. The newsletter provides an all-asset trend list. It acts as a sort of heat map of what is fundamentally working and what isn't as we hit the halfway point of the year.
Okay, so what's working?
If you follow the price, the leaders right now are emerging markets, U.S. small caps, Canadian value stocks, and oil and commodities.
And what is lagging behind?
Well, bonds are still languishing, which isn't a surprise given the interest rate hikes we just discussed.
Right, that makes sense.
But interestingly, assets that were previous media darlings, like gold and Bitcoin, are currently in a falling mode on this specific short to intermediate time frame.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. To illustrate how dangerous it is to fight these trends, the newsletter highlights a massive divergence between 2 very specific, well-known stocks, Caterpillar and TELUS.
Yeah, it is a textbook case study of one massive structural uptrend versus one brutal grinding downtrend.
Let's start with TELUS, the Canadian telecom giant. It has been in a 4-year downtrend. The stock just keeps steadily falling.
Steadily and painfully.
Yeah, and yet the newsletter points out that income-oriented investors keep stubbornly clinging to it. They look at the falling price and the dividend payout and think, oh, it's cheap, it's a value play, the yield is getting higher.
And that right there is the definition of a value trap.
A value trap.
Yeah. I like to compare it to trying to catch a falling safe. People see the safe dropping out of a window, they see the price getting lower, and they think it's a bargain.
But it's a safe.
Exactly. The momentum of a 4-year downtrend will simply crush you when you try to step in front of it. When a stock falls for 4 straight years, the collective market is screaming a warning at you.
And the math of that dividend yield is deceptive.
Yeah.
Right? The yield only looks high because the share price has collapsed.
Yeah.
It's an illusion of value.
That's spot on. And the fundamentals are breaking down. In December, TELUS announced a pause in their long-standing pattern of dividend increases.
Uh-oh.
Right. David Cox is flat out warning in this newsletter that a full dividend cut is likely coming in the month ahead. Buying a stock solely for a dividend that is about to be slashed is how investors destroy your own capital.
Contrast that falling safe with Caterpillar, the company famous for big yellow tractors and bulldozers. You look at a chart of Caterpillar, and it is a steady, powerful line moving from the bottom left to the top right. It's in a massive uptrend.
And we have to ask why it is moving up. This isn't just about traditional agriculture or building suburban subdivisions anymore. Caterpillar is heavily benefiting from the artificial intelligence boom.
Okay, hold on. I have to stop you there.
Sure.
I am struggling to see the bridge between those two things.
Yeah.
When I think of artificial intelligence, I think of Silicon Valley software engineers, server farms, and chatbots.
Yeah.
I do not think of diesel-powered excavators in the dirt.
It seems disconnected, I know.
How exactly does earth-moving equipment profit from ChatGPT?
Because the digital cloud lives on the physical Earth. Think about the massive, tangible infrastructure required to run advanced AI.
Okay, infrastructure.
Right. You need gigawatt-scale data centers.
Yeah.
You need entirely new power generation plants to feed electricity to those data centers. You need sophisticated liquid cooling facilities.
Wow.
You literally cannot build the digital infrastructure of the future without moving millions of tons of physical Earth first. Caterpillar is providing the picks and shovels for the AI gold rush.
That is a phenomenal mechanical connection. I never would have thought of that.
It's all about the supply chain of innovation.
And the broader portfolio construction in the newsletter reflects this reality of following the strength. Their geographic allocation is heavily tilted where the trends are strongest. 62.6% is in U.S. equities, 16.7% in foreign equities, and only 12.7% in Canadian equities.
They are ruthlessly following the trend.
They really are. But that brings me to a really pointed question about their crypto strategy.
Let's hear it.
You mentioned earlier that Bitcoin is currently in a falling mode on their trend monitor. But the newsletter notes that they bought a specific crypto ETF, the Bitwise Crypto Innovators ETF, ticker symbol BITQ, back in early 2023.
Yes, they did.
And they just sold all of it. If the core philosophy is that the trend is your friend and you want to hold rising assets, why would you dump an asset that has been making you money?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we have to distinguish between holding an underlying asset and holding an ETF proxy and how that impacts portfolio volatility.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. They bought actual physical Bitcoin for clients back in November 2022, and they are still holding that.
Oh, okay.
The BITQ ETF is a totally different vehicle. It doesn't just hold the coin. It holds a variety of crypto industry stocks, miners, and digital infrastructure companies.
So it's a leveraged play on the industry, not just holding the digital currency itself.
Exactly. Mining stocks often act as a high beta proxy for Bitcoin. And in the last 9 months, while Bitcoin itself peaked and then fell roughly 50%, this BITQ ETF dramatically outperformed the coin.
By how much?
Well, most of their clients were sitting on 200% to 300% profits in this specific ETF.
Wait, 300%. That is an unbelievable run. So they sold it strictly to lock in the massive gain.
Yes. They recognize that while you want to ride a trend, a wealth manager also has a fiduciary duty to control risk. Taking a 300% profit off the table is a highly calculated move to reduce overall portfolio volatility before that outperformance window violently slams shut.
Right, because you don't want to get greedy.
No, you don't. It is the psychological discipline of knowing when a trend might be getting exhausted relative to its underlying asset.
Discipline. That is the key word here. Because having the psychological armor to look at a 300% profit and have the discipline to walk away while everyone else is still partying, well, that requires an immense amount of mental bandwidth.
Oh, absolutely.
And that same exact discipline, fighting human nature with a rigid system, is how these managers operate their lives outside the office, too.
You really cannot perform at an elite level in financial markets if your personal life is characterized by chaos. The cognitive load is just too high. You need systems.
And the newsletter gives us a fascinating look into the human systems these experts rely on. For example, David Cox grew up playing on a pool table in his basement.
A classic basement setup.
Yeah, so he took a 28-year hiatus from the game, recently joined the Canadian Pool Players Association League, and his team just won the regional 9-ball tournament.
That's awesome.
It is. They're actually heading to the Las Vegas APA World Pool Championships this August.
Good for him.
He is also heavily involved in his kids' sports, sitting out in the sweltering heat, watching his 11-year-old Eloise play Monday Night Soccer, and playing golf with his 15-year-old Emery, who apparently just chipped in for his first birdie.
Which paints a really nice picture of a summer, but there is a strategic behavioral underpinning to why he shares this.
Oh.
Yeah, he references a book he picked up at the Waterloo Public Library called Off Balance by Matthew Kelly.
Now, the premise of that book sounds entirely counterintuitive to the corporate wellness mantra we always hear. Kelly argues that the entire concept of work-life balance is a complete myth.
And he is right, mechanically speaking.
Really? How so?
Balance implies a static state, like a
Right.
perfectly level scale where work and life weigh exactly the same at all times.
Which is impossible.
Exactly. It is biologically and professionally impossible in a dynamic environment. Kelly argues that instead of chasing this mythical static balance, we should focus on personal and professional satisfaction achieved through establishing core daily habits.
Okay.
You drill down into what actually matters, like family, health, focus, and you prioritize them relentlessly. It's about dynamic equilibrium, not static balance.
It is about manufacturing accountability, which is exactly the mechanism his colleague Avery Kelly discusses in her section of the newsletter.
Right, her approach to summer.
Yeah, because summer in Canada is the season of patios, sunsets, and long weekends on the dock. She specifically mentions the incredible Killarney Mountain Lodge on Georgian Bay, with its sailing excursions and the fish fry at the Channel Grill.
Sounds pretty distracting.
Very. It is incredibly easy to lose your edge when you are sitting by the water eating fresh fish.
The environment is actively working against your discipline. So how does she counter that? She manufactures an external accountability structure.
Yes, she does.
She notes that she is not naturally a runner. In fact, she joked you'd normally only catch her running if she was being chased.
A very relatable feeling.
Totally. But she deliberately signed up for 2 10K races. She ran the Toronto Marathon 10K event in May, finishing in under 55 minutes, and she has another one lined up in Canmore for September.
By putting a physical event on the calendar, she completely changes the psychological equation.
Exactly.
She doesn't have to rely on sheer willpower to skip the patio beers. She relies on the fact that she has a race coming up and a rigorous training schedule she committed to. The system dictates the behavior.
The structure forces the discipline. But David takes this concept of a behavioral system to a level that is truly representative of the year 2026.
I couldn't believe this part.
He is actually using artificial intelligence to manage his human biology.
This blew my mind. He admits he's trying to shed a few pounds. He blames his potato chip consumption, which is, again, deeply relatable.
We've all been there.
Right. But he is using large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Grok, and Microsoft Copilot as a daily biological tracking tool. He feeds the AI everything he eats and drinks in a day, logs his runs, and essentially has an ongoing dialogue with the machine about his habits.
It's brilliant.
Wait, so he's using the same multi-billion-dollar supercomputers that are revolutionizing coding and global infrastructure just to count his potato chips.
Yes, and the irony is brilliant. You have a senior wealth manager, someone whose day job involves analyzing global macro trends and allocating capital to the AI revolution, and he is leaning on these bleeding-edge models to manage his own waistline.
It's hilarious, but also kind of genius.
But mechanically, here is why it works. It acts as an unbiased mirror.
It's exactly like having a non-judgmental digital spotter at the gym.
Spot on.
When you write down your calories on paper, you can lie to yourself, or you just forget. But when you converse with an AI, it just processes the data.
It doesn't care if you ate a bag of chips.
Right. It doesn't judge you. It doesn't give you a disappointed look. It just tracks the data and helps you adjust your personal trend line. It completely removes the emotion from the data collection.
And that is the conceptual through line of this entire deep dive. Whether you are managing a multi-million-dollar portfolio of equities or you are managing your daily caloric intake, the requirement is the same.
Track the data.
You need a system to track the raw data, you need to spot the underlying trend, and you must hold yourself accountable to the reality of the numbers, not the comforting narrative you want to tell yourself.
But all of this data tracking, all of this digital wealth building, all of these automated AI conversations, Well, it brings up a much more complex reality about the modern human experience.
It does get deep here.
It really does. We are tracking our biological health with AI.
Huh.
We are building generational wealth with digital assets like Bitcoin and crypto ETFs. We have automated subscriptions running quietly in the background of our lives. What happens to all of this data when the biological human actually dies?
This raises an important question. And this is where Kieran O'Donnell's insights on digital estate planning become critically important.
Because it's not just physical stuff anymore.
Not at all. Wealth management is no longer just about passing down the paper deed to a physical house or a stock certificate in a safety deposit box. A massive and rapidly growing portion of a modern estate exists entirely out of sight in the digital ether.
These are the unseen assets. We were talking about cryptocurrencies stored on cold wallets.
Yep.
And for anyone who doesn't know, a cold wallet is essentially an offline, highly encrypted USB drive that holds the cryptographic keys to your crypto.
Very hard to get into.
Exactly. And we were talking about decades of irreplaceable family memories locked away in cloud photo libraries. We were talking about recurring subscription payments that will just keep quietly draining a bank account month after month because the executor of the will doesn't even know they exist.
Kieran's advice to solve this is incredibly practical, but easily overlooked.
What does he suggest?
You must create a simple, uncomplicated master list of key accounts, important information, and exactly where they are stored.
Sounds easy enough.
You don't necessarily need to write down every single constantly changing password, but you absolutely have to provide a map. Your executors need to know how to navigate the architecture of your digital life.
Because it really highlights a tragedy of modern life. We spend decades meticulously curating our wealth. We capture thousands of beautiful memories on our phones. We build this massive, intricate digital footprint.
And then it's just trapped.
Yes, only to lock it all in a digital vault and essentially throw away the key the moment we pass away.
It's devastating.
If the executor doesn't have the login information, it's not like forgetting a bank password where you can call a 1-800 number and prove your identity. The cryptography doesn't care that you died.
No, it doesn't.
The access is burned. Those family photos are gone forever.
It completely shifts our understanding of legacy. If you hold physical gold bars in a floor safe, eventually, decades from now, someone will drill open that safe and find the gold. But if you hold a fortune in Bitcoin and you take the cryptographic seed phrase to the grave, that wealth is permanently mathematically removed from the universe. It is irretrievable.
That is just wild to think about. So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Good question.
Whether you are staring down a stubborn 4.2% inflation rate, watching a telecom stock you thought was a safe dividend play plunge into a multi-year downtrend, or just trying to find the willpower to stay off the summer patio long enough to train for a 10K, success is never about guessing the future or listening to the noise.
It's about having a system.
Yes, exactly. It is about setting up rigid structures of accountability, whether that's joining a sports league, booking a non-refundable race, or maintaining a daily chat with an AI.
Find what works for you.
And most importantly, it's about following the actual mechanical trend happening right in front of you, not the scary narrative flashing on your screen. But before we wrap up, all this talk of digitizing our habits, our money, and our memories leaves us with a pretty heavy question.
It does. The tools we use to navigate the world are evolving faster than our philosophies can keep up.
They really are.
We are using the very algorithms driving the stock market's growth to monitor our own biological health. We are outsourcing our memory to the cloud.
Yeah.
But as we digitize every single aspect of our existence, from our daily food intake to our cryptographic wealth, to every photo we've ever taken, well, it forces you to wonder.
Wonder what?
If you get hit by a bus tomorrow and your physical body is gone, but your digital avatars, your automated subscriptions, and your AI chatbots keep running indefinitely in the background.
Oh, wow.
At what point does your digital estate become a more accurate, comprehensive reflection of the real you than your physical one? And if you haven't given anyone the passwords, who does that version of you actually belong to?